Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Developed by Monolith Soft and published by Nintendo, Xenoblade 3 released on July 29, 2022, and is meant to be the last title in the trilogy of sorts that started with the first game on the Wii, although technically the fourth title in the series so far if we consider X for the Wii U. Let's see if this game has managed to surpass what we've seen before. Trapped in a never-ending battle, a group of young people struggle to change a world in which killing others is the only way to survive. The story starts going pretty fast and stays mostly interesting until the end. The conclusion as well as other details could be a bit better and clearer, but if you've done most side quests, you should be able to figure most things out. Speaking of side quests, these are for the most part surprisingly interesting, and this is the first time in the series I was motivated enough to do all of them. I do think many of them should have been included into the main quest since they help build the world, explain things, and develop the characters, so the game can feel a bit lacking without doing them. The strongest point in this category are most likely the characters. They are interesting and for the most part likable. This is also the first time I didn't hate the novels, which surprised me quite a bit. Not all characters are equally likable, of course, and tastes may vary, but I think they have nice balance compared to some of the utterly bland or way too over-the-top characters we have seen in previous titles. Graphics in general are nice, and I like the artistic design more than in previous titles, especially the one of the characters. Nonetheless, due to the lack of power of the Switch, the resolution and FPS are not always the best, although it does feel like an improvement from the previous title, especially if we consider the high number of characters and enemies in the screen that this game has. I have to accept I like to see this game on more powerful hardware, but things are as they are. Music, sound, and voices are competent, and I didn't have to change the voices to Japanese like I had to in previous titles. On the other hand, the only things from this category that will remain in my head are the repetitive phrases that the characters continuously spout after combat that should be more varied. First and foremost, the game is about exploring and collecting things around huge maps. The beginning feels a little linear, but you will soon enough be thrown into the world. Exploration works just like we have experienced before, and is pretty straightforward with the exception of some traversal skills like climbing vines that you can learn by doing quests and that will help reaching places you couldn't reach during your first time in an area. There are only 4 of these though, and I feel they could have used them a bit more to make things more interesting. To prevent players from getting too lost, you can activate Navigational Assistance and a line will appear showing you the shortest way to your destination. This works on most quests and makes things easier, and although some people might not like this, it's optional, and I thought it was a great way to know which way not to go when I wanted to continue exploring without moving on with the main quest line. The second most important thing is combat, of course. This one is also pretty similar to previous titles in that your character will auto-attack your target while you activate different abilities that are on cooldowns and have various effects and work better in different situations and positions. You get a lot more abilities and things early on to play with than in previous titles, which helps a lot. There are 7 characters in combat at all times once the game gets going. It gets a bit confusing sometimes, but is manageable. 6 of them are the main ones, and their classes are customizable. They start with one that can be classified as either attacker, defender, or supporter, but soon you will be able to change to the classes of the other characters and of the heroes. Heroes are the 7th character you can have on your team, and you unlock them by moving on with the story and completing side quests. Their classes become available to one character at the beginning, but will eventually become available for all. With class levels, you unlock abilities and skills to be used for all the other classes, so eventually you are going to be able to customize your character classes quite a bit. Besides the basic combat things, you will soon unlock the Interlinkability, which allows 2 of your characters to become a big mecha-like creature that's impervious to damage for a limited time. This ability can be used as soon as you enter combat, but you can only use it for a short while before it goes on a timer, and you can power it by doing combined skills before activating. Chain attacks are the other new thing. You have to fill a bar by using abilities, and when you activate it, things will freeze and you will choose abilities from your characters so they can unleash bigger ones. It sounds a bit complex at the beginning, but it's really not that bad, and it allows you to do huge amounts of damage and get a bonus to the experience gained if you finish the combat with it. Speaking of experience, it's very easy to get overleveled in this game. If you do side quests as they appear, which is something I actually recommend since they make the game more interesting, you will end up a few levels ahead of the main quest very easily. This affects the difficulty of the game quite a bit, especially when combined with how overpowered the Ouroboros forms and the chain attacks are. At the end of the game, I was level 85, while the final boss was 75. So as you can guess, it was not very hard. You can control this a bit if you don't use the bonus experience to get levels when you rest though, but you'll have to be very careful with this if you want the game to remain challenging. The game took me a bit over 100 hours to complete doing all the side quests and things I could find, but I was extremely efficient about things, so I expect it to take between 150 to 200 hours if you take things easy. You are sure to get your money's worth, but it might take over your life like it did with mine for the last couple of months. Although I still prefer specific parts of previous games, like turn-based combat, Axis exploration, and the first game's story, this game has actually become my favorite one since I think the main cast was better balanced, and the well-done side quests really helped the open sections and world in general feel more interesting. Due to this, though, the game requires a huge amount of time to be devoted to it, so that is something to take into account. Also, although I was not as pissed as many people on the internet about the ending, I expected a clearer ending since this is supposed to be the end of the trilogy. After such a long time with the characters, I'd like to know about their fates in a more straightforward manner. Here's to hoping the DLC next year fixes that. In general, a solid RPG that most fans of the genre should enjoy.